One of the most frequently searched terms on our social media accounts for the end of June into the first part of July is the term or the medical condition uterine rupture. And I want to talk with you about that tonight. And it was searched in the context of a baby suffering a traumatic brain injury like HIE. And generally the people who were searching for this term were thinking about having a vaginal delivery after a previous C-section. So before I get too deep into the uterine rupture aspect of things and the HIE injury for the baby, I want to say that if you are thinking about this, if you're thinking about having that vaginal delivery and you've already had a previous C-section, that you need to speak with your medical professionals as to whether this is a good choice for you, as to whether you have an increased risk of certain types of complications like a uterine rupture or dealing with the prolonged labor. You got to talk with your doctor and your professionals about that, okay? So that's I want to put that out there and make sure that you understand that first. Secondly, is getting to that term uterine rupture. What is it? You may be saying, okay, Marcus, what is a uterine rupture? It's exactly what it says. The uterus ruptures. And when you have the uterine rupture that occurs during labor and delivery, it creates an emergency. And it creates an emergency because one of the main areas of concern when the uterus ruptures is hemorrhaging. And when you have hemorrhaging, which is essentially bleeding, not only is that a threat to mom, but it also is a threat to the baby. That term HIE, or hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, in its basic sense, what that is a reduction in oxygenated blood, which can lead a baby to suffer a traumatic brain injury. So it stands to reason that if mom is hemorrhaging and is being adversely impacted by the loss of blood, then of course the baby can, in some instances, be impacted by mom losing a lot of blood. So in our context, from a medical legal standpoint, when we have calls and we're doing birth injury investigations for families as it pertains to these HIE injuries, when mom has suffered a uterine rupture, one of the main areas that we're looking at is one, where did the rupture occur? Did it occur on a previous cesarean line, or did something else happen? And number two, one of the other main areas of concern is whether mom was dealing with a prolonged labor. In other words, mom just was not going through labor in a timely fashion. And because of that prolonged labor, more stress was being placed on the uterus, and then you have a rupture. And of course, the baby has now suffered a traumatic brain injury because of that. So I know I've talked about a lot in this video, and I've talked about this video, a couple of months ago or a couple of weeks ago, but this is an issue that comes up a lot. We get a lot of questions about this uterine rupture issue and babies suffering a traumatic brain injury in conjunction with this. So I just wanted to help you understand some of the important issues tonight that surround uterine rupture and babies suffering a traumatic brain injury like HIE. If you have more questions, maybe you're watching this video today because your baby has suffered a traumatic brain injury and you've had a uterine rupture and you're like, okay, well, what happened? Was there something that could have been prevented? Were you in a prolonged labor and it happened, or did something else occur and now your baby has a traumatic brain injury? If you have that going on, what I invite you to do is to get your phone and give me a call. There's a telephone number down below on the screen. Go ahead, pick up your phone and call my office and let us discuss your baby story. Now, when you call my office, also when you speak to my secretary, remember that it's important for you to leave them a date and a time when you talk with them about getting on our calendar. So make sure you pick a date and a time. In addition to the date and time, make sure that you have a good working email address because from time to time we have to communicate through email, and we want to make sure it's an email address that you frequently check. Before I get out of here, finally, I want to make sure that you understand that I practice law here in the state of Maryland. I know from time to time we'll have individuals who will contact my office. They're in the United States, but they're not in Maryland. If that's you, just understand that we have to use what we call co-counsel or local counsel. In other words, an attorney in your state. And that's something that we can look to work and help you with. But I just want to make sure that you understand that co-counsel or that local counsel aspect of things if you are not here in the state of Maryland. All right, that's going to be it for today's quick educational video. Again, I'm Marcus Boston, and I'm one of the childbirth injury and medical malpractice attorneys practicing law here in the state of Maryland at Boston Law Group, LLC. We'll talk with you next time. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.